Hi, here I am with a read aloud video number 1. Hey guys, check it out. I brought home Wonderstruck so we can keep reading it. I'm super happy. Okay, I want to get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over to the camera so you guys can see the book, just like we do at school every single day. I'm going to go back a little bit through the last section of pictures that we looked through, and we are going to pick up from there just so you can remind yourself about what was going on in that museum, what the young lady was doing, and then we will switch over to continuing to read. So I'm going to set this video up. I'm going to read for approximately 15 minutes, which is, give or take a few minutes. About how much I do in the classroom. Generally, it's like 20 as we go through the bathroom trainer or whatever, but how exciting. Nobody has to leave today. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Like I said, I'm going to flip over and go through some of those old pictures. Okay. Here we go. This is so exciting. Here we are. Okay, so Wonderstruck. Okay, you guys, you know how you can change the video on this? You got to check this out, how weird it looks when I just, okay, so black and white, yes, but that one is so crazy, isn't it? Look how white these buildings are down here. They stand out so much. Anyway, okay, that was fun. So here we go. Hey, check out my bookmark, you guys. It's a kaboom stick. Kaboom. Hey, anybody comment on the video for what this word means? Slithers. That's from story 6. That was from a while ago. Anyway, okay, read aloud. Wonderstruck. Here we go. Painted my nails last night so that I could see my nice nails. You guys know how I am. All right, here we go. Going through the museum, right? Make sure the whole thing's under there. Ben was running through the snow again. The wind stung his face and he could barely breathe, but something felt different. There were no sounds of galloping footsteps, no howling, no crunching snow. Everything was silent, so he couldn't tell where the wolves were. Had they disappeared, or were they right at his heels, about to pounce? Afraid to look back, he kept running until he woke up in a cold sweat, out of breath, with the caveman blanket wrapped around his legs. Jamie didn't come back the next morning, and Ben didn't want to leave without thanking him and saying goodbye. Besides, he needed Jamie's help to call his aunt and uncle. He was hungry, so he got up, changed his shirt, and headed into the museum, leaving the door unlocked. He used the bathroom, then went back to the cafe and finished the remains of another sandwich, a fruit cup, and some juice he found sitting on a deserted table. Then he made his way back to the wolf diorama and stared into the glass eyes of the running wolves. Then noticed a sign mounted to the wall near the diorama that he hadn't read yesterday. Environment of the Wolf Group, Gunflint Lake, Minnesota. This typical December winter scene is placed at the margin of Gunflint Lake. Across the lake lies Ontario. Gunflint Lake forms part of the old fur trading route extending westward from Lake Superior to Rainy Lake, which was originally selected to give the minimum number of portages. The time is midnight. The temperature has fallen well below zero. The curtain type of northern lights blazes upward from the horizon. The constellations, Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, and Ursa Minor, the Little Dipper, can be recognized. Ben looked at the night sky painted on the curved wall at the back of the diorama. There it was, the Big Dipper. And in the tail of the Big Dipper, and in the tail of the Little Dipper, Ben could clearly see the North Star, and he'd never felt more lost in his life. Remember, he always felt so confident, knowing if he could find the North Star, he was good. Right now, it's not really working out for him. So we can see her running in. Check out this guy. He can see her new exhibition. I wonder what it is. Uh-oh. How museums began. Looks like our little person is cruising through here, but check out all this stuff up and around. That's just amazing, right? Ben had spent hours wandering around the museum. Then he'd returned to the secret room to wait for Jamie and unloaded his pockets, which he'd stuffed with things he found around the museum. A plastic dinosaur, a business card, a bobby pin, and a subway token. He was reading Wonderstruck when Jamie finally showed up that evening. He sat down next to Ben on the fur blanket and produced a couple of sandwiches and cans of soda from his green knapsack. Ben smiled, took one of the sandwiches, and drank some soda. Jamie pulled out the notebook and wrote, "Sorry it took me so long to get back. I forgot my dad was taking me on one of his work trips." Ben nodded. While he ate, Jamie reached under one of the shelves and slid out an old blue record player. It reminded Ben of his mom's. Jamie unsnapped the latch and opened the lid. He chose a record from a nearby stack and placed it on the turntable. As he was lowering the arm onto the record, he stopped and smacked his forehead. He made a face indicating he had done something stupid, then pointed to Ben and then to his own ears. Ben said, "It's okay, you can listen. I'll feel the vibrations." Jamie smiled and lowered the arm. Ben placed his hand over the fabric of the speaker built into the front of the record player and felt the music, just like his mom used to. When the record ended, Ben said, "I have to go home, Jamie. Can you tell your dad about me and ask him to call my family?" The strangest look crossed Jamie's face. "Okay," he wrote. "But first I have a surprise for you. My dad is working late tonight, so I have a few hours. Follow me." When Ben didn't move, Jamie wrote, "I promise I'll talk to my dad later." The museum had closed for the night, and it was eerily still. Jamie led Ben down long hallways and through many doors, some of which he had to unlock with his set of keys. Most of the lights had been turned off, plunging everything into darkness. The beam of Jamie's flashlight lit the floor ahead of them. When they came upon a night watchman sitting and reading a book at the end of the corridor, Jamie pulled Ben around the corner and down another hallway. He opened a door marked Electrics. Carefully, he led Ben through another door to a row of folding seats and pushed gently on his shoulders, indicating he should sit. When Ben's eyes adjusted to the darkness, he made out a dim glow from a control panel where Jamie stood. A giant object, like a mechanical insect, appeared in the center of the room. It turned and spun, and suddenly the ceiling lit up with stars. Ben gasped, "The planetarium." Jamie came and sat next to him as the sky filled with shooting stars. The projector rotated, the view changed, and the boys found themselves inside a meteor hurtling across the sky. They flew to the moon and bounced between craters. One by one, the planets drifted into view, and soon they were out beyond the solar system, gazing down on the universe like ancient gods. Ben thought of the glow in the dark stars in his room, and the Big Dipper, and the quote above the stars, and his mom. The glowing lights above him spun and swirled, tracing endless patterns against the perfect dome of the ceiling like a million electric fireflies making constellations in the dark. When the show ended, they had been brought gently back to Earth. Jamie led Ben out into the museum again. They passed the shadow-covered elephants and the hanging blackbirds that kept watch over the museum. Ben pointed up as they paused beneath the gray silhouette of the giant whale. Around them, all the dioramas were sunk in darkness. The glass turned into mirrors in the dim light, so the boys saw their reflections as they passed. They waved their arms and made faces in the mirrors. Behind their reflections from certain angles, the animals peered out like ghosts from the Serengeti. For a moment, Ben found it hard to imagine the museum was ever full of light and bustling with people. The building felt permanently haunted. Jamie, smiling broadly, turned on the flashlight and ushered Ben into a rickety old elevator. He slid the metal gate shut and pushed down on a long bronze handle. The elevator jerked and lowered slowly into the basement, where Jamie led Ben down another maze of hallways to large double doors peeling with a century's worth of paint. A sign on the door read "Workshop" in stenciled black letters. Below that, someone had handwritten, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Inside, Jamie wandered from table to table, picking up metal tools and jars of mysterious liquids that glowed like amber. Ben stared in awe, trying to imagine what each one was for. After a few minutes, Jamie mouthed the word "more" and took Ben into a series of vast storage rooms. Ben looked around in amazement. He ran his hands across dusty old dinosaur bones, rows of little birds on wooded perches, seashells, fossils, bugs, ancient clothing, spearheads, turquoise jewelry, ivory buttons, and 1,000 other fascinating things. The boys explored for a while, and then Jamie led them down a long hallway filled on one side with black metal filing cabinets stacked 5 drawers high for as far as the eye could see. Teetering on top of the filing cabinets were piles of discarded furniture, including an old empty card catalog, even bigger than the one in his mom's library. Ben stared down the rows of filing cabinets. There had to be thousands of drawers here. He opened one and looked inside. Long, hanging files with little tabs extended to the back of the drawer. Ben pulled out a piece of paper, a detailed receipt for the acquisition of a golden cup in 1913. He read it quickly and then removed an old photo from the museum. Ben noticed right away that the entrance was different. He wondered how else the museum had changed over the years, and Jamie motioned him back into the main hallway of the museum. In the darkness, they retraced their path until Ben found himself in front of the dark mirror of the wolf diorama. The electric moonlight had been turned off, and when Jamie shined the flashlight inside, the four glittering glass eyes flashed back.
Sometimes a shot can hurt a little bit. But then it's over.
We've been able to tell so much about her story just through her eyes. Isn't that crazy? Yep, not for me.
Great to see you. Let you listen on that. Let's put it right here. That's it. Deep breath.
Uh-oh. That looks like a man's hand. It looks like her hair.
It can be scary sometimes.
When they had finally made it back to the secret room, the 2 boys sat on the caveman fur and caught their breath. That was amazing, Ben said, shaking his head. Thank you. Jamie's face glowed. He took another picture of Ben and handed Ben the camera. Ben took a picture of Jamie, and they laid the images next to each other on the blanket to develop. Jamie passed Ben the flashlight as he wrote a long note in the notebook, his tongue sticking out between his teeth. I've never shown anyone the museum before. Your wolf box made me think you'd like it. Jamie paused for a moment, and looked quickly at Ben. In that split second, Ben saw something in Jamie's glance, something that connected the 2 of them beyond the secret room and a love for the museum. In a moment, the pen was moving again. I don't have any friends here. No one likes the things I like. No one shares this stuff with me. Not even my dad, who's been working in the planetarium for 2 years, really knows or cares about what I do all day. Only you. Ben looked at the words, only you, and he wanted to tell Jamie he felt the same way, but he let Jamie keep writing. I really wish my dad cared about me. Sure he does, Ben said. Maybe he's just busy. Jamie shrugged and mouthed the words, maybe. Talk to him, Ben said, trying to imagine what it would be like to talk to his own dad. Instead of answering, Jamie started doodling in the notebook, drawing long, dotted lines and arrows. Ben traced his finger along the lines, and Jamie laughed. Sorry. Sometimes when I'm thinking or when I'm bored, I make up games for myself. I like to draw maps. When he read this, Ben said, I know, and you follow people around the museum too. Jamie smiled. I like having a place that's my own, to organize my photographs and listen to music. Ben nodded. My mom and I liked listening to music together while we were reading. She was a librarian. Was? What does she do now? Ben tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. He took the notebook and the pen and wrote about his mom and the car accident and living at his cousin's house. Oh, Jamie mouthed. When he finished reading what Ben had written, I'm sorry. Ben didn't answer. Where's your dad? Jamie wrote. Ben shrugged. Are your parents divorced too? Ben shook his head. When he offered no further explanations, Jamie wrote, Are there really wolves in Gunflint Lake? Ben nodded. So why did you do it? Do what? Ben said. Jamie pointed to Ben's suitcase and mimed running away with his fingers. It's far, isn't it? Ben looked down for a moment and took a deep breath. After the lightning hit me, I was in the hospital in Duluth for a long time. I could see the bus station from my window. Ben paused and Jamie nodded as if encouraging him to go on. My cousin Janet owed me a favor. When she came to visit, I asked if she could bring me a book I liked and a necklace of my mom's. I also asked for clean clothes, my museum box, and money from my mom's rainy day fund so I could buy some food in the vending machines. On her next visit, she brought everything in a suitcase. Did she know you were going to... Jamie made his fingers run again. I don't think so. She wouldn't have brought all the stuff she did. That night, I changed into my own clothes, snuck out of the hospital, and went to the bus station. I was halfway to New York before I realized I should have left a note for my family. But you still haven't said why you... Jamie made the running motion with his fingers. Then paused for a minute, then said, I wanted to find my father. He lives in New York? I thought he did. Ben could tell from Jamie's expression that he needed to explain more. I've never met my dad. My mom never talked about him. When I was in the hospital, I asked my aunt if she knew anything, but she said she didn't. I had found my dad's address in my mom's things after she died. I thought she might have been planning this trip for me, and I felt like I had to come. It's strange thinking about it now. It was almost as if something came over me. One minute, I had the idea to find my father, and the next minute, I was on a bus to New York. Ben shook his head, still in shock that he had actually done it. As soon as I arrived, I went to his apartment, but he doesn't like it. He doesn't live there anymore. I had one other clue, a bookmark from Kincaid's that he wrote on. I thought they might remember him. That's why I was there the day we met. I tried to tell you that Kincaid's isn't... Jamie stopped writing and held the pen in midair. Ben looked from Jamie to the pen to the paper, unsure why Jamie was pausing. At last, the pen connected with the paper again, and he finished the sentence. Isn't open anymore. I could see that. I didn't know you were deaf then, Jamie wrote. The two boys sat for a while, looking around the secret room. It was as if they were both waiting for something to happen, but neither knew what it was. I wish I could stay here longer, but my aunt is probably worried sick. I have to go back to Gunflint Lake. Jamie shook his head. First, you have to practice signing. Ben smiled as he made an okay sign. Jamie showed Ben the letters again, and they spelled each other's names. They practiced spelling different words, and after a while, Ben was able to sign most of the alphabet. Jamie paused and picked up the notebook. My mom's coming to visit tomorrow, so I'll be away. I have to go home, Jamie. You said you'd ask your dad to help me. Jamie looked at Ben as if he was trying to figure out something. He finally wrote, I'm worried my dad will get mad at me. Why? You helped me. Isn't that a good thing? Jamie reached into his pocket and gave Ben his set of keys. Stay and explore a little longer and we'll figure out what to do. Just be careful. Leave the door open for me. I'll see you in 2 days. Ben wrote down a number on a page in the notebook, which he handed back to Jamie. Will you call my aunt and uncle for me then? Tell them I'm okay, and they can come get me at the museum. Jamie ripped out the piece of paper and said, sure. He reached into his bag and pulled out some sandwiches and apples for Ben. Then he pressed the notebook and pen into Ben's hand. For you. Thanks. Please don't forget to call.
Okay, boy, what do you say? Are you ready to play right here in the house? Okay. Okay, good. I'll be in the kitchen. Roar or if you need.
Does anybody notice anything right now? Anything pretty important? What do we have here? If we take a quick back, you'll remember that we had this postcard way at the beginning from somebody named Walter. Is this the Walter? Doesn't look that old. Can't be a dad, I don't think. Remember, we know she's deaf. What happened? That's where we're going to stop today, guys. That's the end of that. Stay tuned for our next video, for our next section of the book.